गुड इवनिंग and welcome to Gana Short में आप सबका स्वागत है. Today I am with General Harimohan Iyer, my old friend, and we're going to talk about Op Sindoor. And let's remind everyone it's not over as yet. There's a lot of water to flow under the Sindhu, and the Sindoor has a lot more to do, right? And I'd like you to have a look at this thumbnail of ours. This is by a set of civilians. And this was given to me by General Harimohan today morning and said, so let's use this as a thumbnail. So I'd like first General Harimohan to explain to us, where did you get this idea and who gave you this, and give me the story behind this, picture. I thought it was telling. It gives the feeling of people, from the heart.
So,
So tell us this, and
so,
then
uh,
we will talk about other things.
so, I believe there was a group of Pakistanis who landed up in front of the embassy in Lisbon, and they started waving their flags and they were trying to celebrate victory of Op Sindoor or whatever they were calling. So the Indian ambassador at Lisbon, he put this out and told them that firstly, you people haven't won and Sindoor is not yet over. We are still got lot of things to do. So those people were then heralded out saying that, come back to your mother earth. So this came out as a photograph to me, and I felt we should, put it as your thumbnail so that people understand that Sindoor is still on and it is not yet over.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing. We need to support people, how innovative they are in putting it. Sindoor is not over. And Pakistan has not won. Let's me be very clear. Okay. And as days are going by, the things are coming out. But Pakistan is losing. And like I always say, and I'll invite Harimohan's comment on this statement of mine. The value of Sindoor is not in the military action. It is in the beyond the military action which is now unfolding. Like for instance, there are some news, whether it's right or not, I don't know. We pulled out of the Asia Cup, right? And just IMF has put new bans or rather new stringent conditions on that loan which they're given. And many more are going to come out. They're going to come out, right? I've just given two. Oh yeah. Chinese are completing a dam in Mohammed on Swat. They're completing ahead of time. God save that dam. If the Chinese, as it is, any dam which they've constructed in Pakistan has gone down. If they construct this dam ahead of time, it will go down. But that's the panic they're in. Panic, fear, the terror. So, Op Sindoor has a long way to go, and sabar rakhna hai. I always say, play the long game. Oh, I want General Harimohan to comment on this, what I've said, and then we'll take it up from what you had to say.
So,
Yeah.
so perfectly, I think, firstly, though BCCI has come out and said that that is not a true statement, because I guess this Asia Cup is a way away, and I guess it's a little too early to possibly
Yeah, I agree.
because they'll come under pressure. But I'm very sure that such a news cannot come out of nowhere. So I'm sure for some reason that's one of the things which I feel will be happening in September, October. So you never know. So it is something worth watching. It's just a feeler, possibly done by a rogue person for all you know,
Whatever.
but it has some implication. As regards the IMF restrictions or what they have added conditions, I've gone through them. See, some of them, only 3 of them may trouble Pakistan per se, but 6 of them are more of, telling India that, look, we are not giving them something for nothing. But that having said, I believe Russia has outvoted one of the IMF dole out recently to Ukraine. So it is not necessary that we may not be able to, have a system tomorrow which can possibly make the next set of loans for Pakistan difficult.
Yes.
And possibly these 7 delegations, and I'll be talking about it when
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
bring out my issues. And I guess there are more things to happen as far as the financial dole-out is concerned. So both these cases, I am very sure they are not something in the passing. They have some meanings, and it will open up in due course of time.
Yeah, fine. So overall, do you agree with the thing? There's a long way to go for Sindhu, and of
Oh
course,
yes, sir.
you
Oh
that's
yes,
the
sir.
same.
Oh yes, sir. Oh yes, sir. And I, like I said, it is part of our last talk. It is not
Yeah.
just. It is part of a larger game.
Mm,
The balkanization, and it may be
of
the kind of a thing which will keep happening to activate some other nut somewhere to maybe speed up the balkanization at some
Yeah,
stage.
fine. I go with you. Okay, now let me leave the floor to you. You have something to say. We'll listen to it, and then I'll take it on
So,
because
so
the thumbnail was yours. Everything is yours. So I leave the floor to you.
So what I wanted to do today was, sir, like in any, and this is for your viewers, whenever we talk of any future, plans or thoughts, in Forge we do something called a review of the situation. So I just penned down something today, and I just wanted to put it across to your set of viewers, and through you, many other people who watch your channel. What has happened and where we are today? We need to take a pragmatic look at it. So I will go back to the day when I first came to your channel, sir, 2nd of April, when you gave me an opportunity to speak on Pakistan. And if you recollect, I had a totally different tone when I was speaking on Pakistan. It was supposed to be a non-starter because we were looking somewhere else at that time. Things have moved very fast in the last 1 month and a half. But I will start my review from there, sir. So if you look at what was there on 2nd of April, the Pakistan had suffered the Zafar Express fiasco. Today, the Baluchis have put up a huge video,
Yeah,
24-minute video. It's an eye opener. I went and saw it. It's an eye opener, and if they were able to plan with so much of meticulous manner, I am very sure there are much more things to happen in Balochistan. So they were facing this Zafar fiasco, and the army was taking the brunt of it because the majority of people who got abducted and supposedly killed after that were army personnel posted at Quetta and proceeding on leave oblique returning from courses. They were all unarmed, they were with their families, and they were abducted and subsequently supposedly killed. There were, I think, 240 plus army personnel on the train who were,
yeah.
taken.
That's what that
So
clip
it was
says.
a
That clip
slap.
says
If I was to use the Yes, so it was a slap on the face of the army, and they had lost actually a huge face in the Pakistan populace, which treats them as God. That was once. On that period of time, Imran Khan was again, getting revived. His people were trying to muster yet another, DCHOC kind of another rally, which was to happen in the month of May. They were trying to, put things together, and Asim Munir was trying to push Imran Khan down. There were large number of issues which came up, and in that duration, two letters also came out where Imran Khan actually ended up praising Asim Munir. So there was also a talk that there could be a kind of a understanding between the two, and this whole political issue, will undertake a new turn in due course of time. So,
yeah. Sorry, I have a power
so
outage here. You
I
can
guess
continue.
okay. So when I look at what was there in the early part of April, there was a political turmoil in Pakistan. Army was losing its face, and the Balochis were getting a very big upper hand. And the army and Pakistan was trying to throw this complete Balochi episode onto India and Raw, which they normally do whenever there is an incident, trying to bring back again Commodore Jadhav, Commander Jadhav, as one of those cases. So, okay, so this is something which was there on the second, and Pakistan was facing economic problems. IMF was not playing ball with them, and they were a little suspicious whether they'll get this bailout in the month of May. So this was the situation on 2nd of April, as I look at it when I was speaking on your channel. 2 weeks later, Asim Munir makes that huge, outreach to expats. That was the first time when I saw a chief of Pakistan Army being, put on the center stage after a very, very long time. Neither Bajwa nor Rahil Sharif nor Kayani, three predecessors, neither of them made that kind of a speech which was, targeted at international audience. It was only, if I could recollect, one was Musharraf was very fond of this kind of a speech. And when one looks at Asim Munir's speech on that day, it reminded us of maybe some degree of Musharraf's attitude, which was creeping into his personality. He was trying to use Islam and the code of Islam to justify actions of the army and asking people to rally behind him and the state of Pakistan. So that was the first time I could realize that there was a case where army was struggling to find space. It was trying to put his head above water. And this was a situation where the chief had to come out and bring up things as to why Pakistan was created. We must tell our future generations about how good a state we are. We are the only other Muslim state which was created because of the Islam being the base. So many things he said that day, which had a very, very strange method of relevance to the kind of situation Pakistan was in. And 4 days or 5 days later, Pahalgam happens. And now, about a month later, when I look at what has happened to Pakistan, today, due to whatever happened in Pakistan, in Pahalgam and the issues thereafter, today, Pakistan Army has managed to convince the population of Pakistan that it is its savior. And I don't consider this as a win for Pakistan. Pakistan Army has managed to win in the eyes of Pakistan's population. So when I look at where Pakistan is today, rather than getting discredited, the army today, and I call it an get out of jail free card being given to Asim Munir. And he has suddenly become, once again, as the Prime Minister mentioned yesterday, the fucker of the Qom. So I don't know which fucker he was meaning, but I presume that it was the Urdu fucker. But yes, he suddenly again come back to center stage, and that is something which was not in our scheme of things. As you remember, when I mentioned the options, when I was talking about the kind of options available, the prime aim for India, if we want to have something done in Pakistan, we have to ensure that the Pakistani army gets discredited. Unfortunately, the events that have happened and the way they have perceived or they have tried to convey to their own populace, it has not achieved our aim. So that is why I feel Operation Sindoor has still got lots of miles to go. Because if we have set on the task of discrediting the Pak army and getting Pakistan out of this current scheme of army dominated society, we have a lot of space to go, and I think there is much more to Operational Sindoor as we look at it. Let's look at what happened with us. Before that, I would also like to mention I am very clear that it was Asim Munir and his gang, possibly the ISI, which orchestrated Pahalgam. There was no doubt about it. Only thing, and I mentioned it last time when I was on your channel, that they possibly lost control. They didn't want it to go so badly the way it went. And possibly they were worried that the repercussions are going to be very heavy. And this was very much visible in his face and his attitude leading up to 7th of May. Whenever you used to, see Asim Munir, there was a degree of concern on his face. So I am very clear Pahalgam was a Pakistan conspiracy, which was ISI backed and executed very, very poorly. As a result of that, the period between 22nd of May, sorry, April to 7th of May, some actions we took were out of the world. The first one was the putting the IWT on abeyance. It was never expected, and I don't think in the wildest dream the Pakistani hierarchy would have even thought that such a decision can be taken up, because they always felt that they had the international backing, and India won't dare take that kind of a step. And as General Shankar put it up one of his speeches earlier, it in my mind is a nuclear bomb and it will take its own course to destroy Pakistan, and I am also convinced on it. But that was a wonderful thing which we did. And the other routine things like economic sanctions, trade, cutting down their staffing in our embassies, sending their deputy high commissioner back. So there were some very positive kind of reactions we had taken. And I had mentioned it many times that we were found wanting in the info domain. We did not publicize these adequately in our info domain. We did not target the Pakistani populace, which is the basic audience that we should be targeting our information warfare on. We should have gone a little more ballistic, conveying to them what are the implications of these, actions that India has taken. And they should carry out a SWOT analysis whether they want to be part of a system which breeds terrorism and thereafter get destroyed, because India has the keys to destroy Pakistan. So that is only area where I find we were a little wanting, and I had mentioned it at least on 2 occasions earlier on this channel that we need to pull up our socks. Uh, Pakistan also mobilized its forces partially, and that is part of his what he call as new concept of war fighting. He puts what is called precautionary deployments all along places where he feels vulnerable, and he was getting a feeling that this time India is not going to end up with a symbolic response. So, as a result, not only did he do precautionary deployment, he also mobilized what I call partial mobilization, a certain degree of his troops from his hinterland, thereby exposing Baluchistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which was deeply involved in insurgency. Both these areas, he took the risk, put the troops out. Not completely, I am very sure, but to a large extent, they were moved. And I believe they have been pulled back post the ceasefire. So that is where the situation is.
Hey, pulled back
Uh,
where?
they, I think, gone back to, I guess, whatever was pulled has been sent back, both 9 and 11 core
Okay.
elements. That is what is my input from whatever I could gather.
Okay.
Because he's worried that possibly Balochistan, he needs more troops. Uh, there were two other issues which Pakistan was worried. One was Vice President Vance's visit, which was they were feeling that they were not part of it, and that coupling of India Pakistan as one part of the American outreach was missing when Vance came to India. So that was one issue which was bothering them. They also felt that with a favorable FBI chief, the director of intelligence, DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, India was having a much more favorable dispensation in US.
Environment.
That kind of a fear was there. I'm talking about post Pahalgam, and I believe Kash Patel had made a couple of statements that he will try and ensure that whatever assistance he can provide through FBI to unearth who was behind this high-risk killing. Uh, he made a statement which had some relevance. Same case with Tulsi Gabbard also mentioned that whatever intelligence India needs, the US will provide. So they were a little worried whether US will become one-sided towards India and abandon them, particularly in a scenario when they were leaning on China. So they were looking at China to put pressure on India in the Eastern theater and ensure that India does not have adequate, forces to carry out conventional operations and discredit their army, because I am very sure they didn't have the forces to hold if two strike corps of India had been launched on the Western Front in the month of end April beginning of May. Coming on to what happened on 6th and 7th May, we are all aware of it. But I would like to put a caveat here. We need to look at what happened between, let's say, 30th of April and 6th of May. And this has got a lot of relevance. Pakistan undertook a large number of Air Force exercises which were happening in the northern areas. Then he shifted that to the Sindh area. Then he brought it back into Punjab. So by and large, when you look at the kind of data that they are putting out, they had a lot of aircrafts which are always airborne and were in very high state of readiness. And this I must maybe, sir, with your permission, explain the aspect of response.
Do that.
So whenever an air defense aircraft has to respond to an aerial threat, there are various levels of readiness which they follow. The lowest being crew room readiness, where the crew is kept in the room and the aircraft is in the hangar, and they possibly need more time to put the aircraft in the sky. And you can relate it with what happened when Americans came for Osama bin Laden, and the Pakistanis could react only after about 25 to 30 minutes. Possibly they were never expecting an incursion from that side. They didn't have radar coverage, and their aircrafts were not on the kind of readiness to intercept any incursion from that side. So this is one degree of readiness. The second degree of readiness is called runway readiness, which the crew is inside the cockpit and inside the aircraft and is ready to airborne. The weapons are already mounted onto the aircraft. So the time taken for the aircraft to be airborne is much lesser, and the reaction to any aerial threat is met much faster. This is something which was there during Balakot, where they were able to put their aircraft in air in about 4 to 5 minutes, and they came searching for us, and we had to exit from wherever we had released our ordnance. The third one is the continuous cap. When I say continuous cap, means aircrafts are always in the air. So one set of aircrafts is in the air, the second is on the ground, and third is getting ready. So it has kind of a regular routine.
Chain.
And there is a set of aircrafts always in the air. Now, what happens when they carry out large-scale Air Force exercises? When they do large-scale Air Force exercises, the number of aircrafts which they put in the air are tremendously large. So they were doing this in the period between 1st to 6th of May. And I was following it. And in fact, I had a informal conversation with one of my Air Force corpsmen. And I said the kind, when Pulwama happened, and they were expecting a surgical strike again, the kind of deployment they did was to counter any kind of infiltration, and there was no scope available for us to carry out any infiltration. And I said, now that we are done Balakot, this time they'll put that kind of effort in the air. And that is exactly what was there when you look at the kind of briefing which that Air Marshal Aurangzeb was giving to the foreign media. They had almost, I think, 40 odd aircrafts in the air, covering almost all the sectors. Where they possibly went wrong was they didn't expect us to hit with loiter ammunitions, and they didn't expect us to hit at more than 1 or 2 areas. And that is possibly the reason I still maintain that the 7th May or 6th, 7th May operation is, I believe, one of the best air operations one can look at. And when we do such kind of operations, we do cost-benefit analysis. We are aware that such operations have a degree of risk. There will be certain degree of losses, and I think the DG Air Ops very clearly mentioned during his briefing that we had carried out the appreciation, and whatever happened was well within what we had planned for, and all our pilots came back safe. So this is basically to put those people in your audience at rest who still feel we had huge losses. We may have had 1 or 2 losses, but then they are all factored losses, and I'm very sure we didn't lose a major aircraft. We may have lost 1 odd old aircraft that we had, and it is well within the kind of risks that one takes for undertaking an operation of this nature. While I believe the operation on 7th was an outstanding one, and I also support the way the government under the MEA and those two lady officers did the first press briefing on the seventh morning, and it had a symbolic response. But what happened in the next 2 days is where we possibly lost a little bit of ground, and that is where today we are struggling to, put the perception right. General Shankar mentioned that Pakistan is losing, so we should have been very clear. Pakistan has lost. And why we are still saying he's losing? Because we are still trying to convince the world as to what all happened in the period between 7th and 10th of May. And that is the only area where, again, I say we are a little behind where we talk of information being communicated. Now, whereas in the Pakistan side, they were holding morning and evening briefings of the DG ISPR with his naval and Air Force colleagues, and they were briefing media, taking questions, getting the foreign media, and they were going ballistic in terms of communication. Post the briefing on the 7th, we didn't have a briefing in the evening on 7th. We had a scheduled briefing on the 8th, which was cancelled. And then we had a kind of a brief again by the same set of people, which was a truncated one, I think 15 odd minutes on the 8th evening. And the Secretary MEA was bombarded with, questions which he was not an expert in. So possibly he was not able to give the kind of relevant answers, which the press has taken it other way. And it is, it's nice to, I guess, for us to accept that we possibly went short. It was only on the 9th and the 10th that we got our act together and we got the DGMOs to come. DGMO, DG Air Ops, and DG Naval Ops under the ADGPI, which should have possibly, in my mind, happened on the 7th evening itself. And we should have had morning and evening briefs wherein we could have communicated all aspects of whatever happened to ensure that whatever is coming in the media, what happened on the media on the 8th was all nonsense. All set of veterans who were sitting in every media channel proclaiming that Karachi has fallen, Islamabad has fallen, we are about to put our flag in Islamabad. There were all kind of rubbish which was being communicated, which was not having any degree of value for the Western media. And Western media managed to take the kind of professional briefings which came out of DG ISPR as the gospel truth. And that is where we are now trying to correct, fighting as to who and what we did and what Pakistan actually did and who had the upper hand in these 3 days of war. Of course, what we did on the 8th and 9th is known to all of you. We knocked off their complete air defense system. And thereafter, on the 9th and 10th, we went carpet bombing into the entire Pakistan. We have, from the top to bottom, east to west, we have engaged 11 air bases, including the prestigious Sargoda, Chaklala, Noor Khan, Rahim Yar Khan. Those air bases where he felt we cannot have the reach because he always prides his air force. So with that kind of a scenario, we ended this operation, and we had another problem that though we had maintained from the day one that we don't want to escalate, we had also given him many opportunities to off-ramp, which he was not willing to take because he wanted to off-ramp at a stage when he had the upper hand. And on the entire 3 days, we never gave him an opportunity to have an upper hand. It is only possibly some things which I would not like to go into here, which you are seeing on the YouTube, many channels, possibly where all some things were hit, which possibly alerted the world. The Americans came in, forced him to, ask for ceasefire. They asked for ceasefire since we had already said that we will stop when he stops. We had no other choice but to say we are pausing this operation. Again, I am re-emphasizing on the word, we are pausing this operation. We have not accepted a ceasefire. I would also like to put across the ceasefire happens when you are at war. We have never declared war on Pakistan in the last 4 days, We are very clear that we were hitting terrorist targets, much the same way as the Americans went to Abbottabad and took out Osama bin Laden. The only difference was here we went through precision munitions, and there they went physically and took him out. So there was no intention to attack Pakistan, and that was very clearly given out on our first press brief, which we let out in the open domain. So there is where we are as I look at it today. I believe Pakistan has had a lot of damages due to our strikes in those areas where he possibly didn't expect us to strike. And as such, possibly many of his assets were not in what we call as blast pins, which are protected from shelling and direct hits. They were equipment. In fact, I believe we have hit their National Command Authority structure, which they had, a mobile structure which they had set up at Noor Khan, which possibly had the control of all nuclear assets. So that also I believe we have hit. We have hit and destroyed one of his AVACs, the Saab ADI, at I think what is it, Bulari or someplace. And we have also knocked off a couple of his JF-17 and maybe a couple of his F-16s also. So he has had damages, and he is currently trying to avoid these things from coming into the open domain. And I'm sure every day with new and new evidence coming out in the open domain, the so-called victory dance which Pakistan has been doing for the last 3 days possibly will wean out in due course of time. But having said that, yesterday there was a video which was floating around in the social media where banners and placards were put up all across Islamabad and Lahore glorifying the army. So when I look at that, I feel the army possibly has gone up a couple of notches from where they were, maybe before this operation went in. And Asim Munir, the Qaum Ka Fakar, has possibly got a kind of a little get out of jail free card as of now. And he is possibly become a little stronger than what he was till say 18th of April last month. So this is something which I thought I must put in place before I start looking at what can happen here onwards. You should all know that the government is sending a delegation. 7 delegations are going out to various countries. They are going to be putting across our case. The ultimate aim is to get Pakistan onto the FATF blacklist and at least the grey list, if not the blacklist. That could be the ultimate aim. The other silver lining was that the UNSC refused to pass a resolution against India when Pakistan, which is a non-permanent member, wanted a closed-door meeting and wanted a resolution to be taken out. The UNSC refused to do that. Another silver lining is the World Bank president, who happens to be an Indian today, Ajay Banga. He has very clearly said that World Bank was just a facilitator and he does not want to get involved in this Indus Water Treaty renegotiation issue. So they are not going to get any support from the World Bank as far as the IWT is concerned. And my last occasion that I was with Gunner Shot, I mentioned that when IWT was put on abeyance, Shehbaz Sharif went out and said that it's an act of war and we will apply full spectrum of conflict to resolve IWT. And once they asked for ceasefire on 10th of May, do they still have the guts to go all out against us to get back on IWT? I don't think so. So IWT is here to stay and he's going to feel the brunt of it in this coming season. Now I want to also put across as to why we stopped where we stopped. And this is very important. People should understand there's a lot of irresponsible people. We were at the doorstep of victory, we pulled back, we should have captured POK, we should have released Baluchistan. It doesn't happen so soon. I mentioned it last time also. Pakistan has a very large and a professional standing army. It will require some beating before you are able to win over them. So you'll need to have protracted operations. You should be prepared to take a huge amount of losses, both in terms of physical casualties, and it will also turn out to be an economic burden on the society. So country has to be prepared for it. And the last thing which I'd like to put across, this is not the time for an operation against Pakistan, because in another 10 days, the Kharif crop will be sowed both in our side and on their side, which means all the fields, all the border areas will have fields which have got standing water and slush. And
You
this
can't do
will
any
get,
operations.
you can't do any protected operations. The only area where you could have done some kind of operations in this kind of a time was in Ladakh, maybe towards Gilgit Baltistan. And last time when I was mentioning the option, I was holding myself from using these words. That is possibly the only area where you could have done something, but it needed a huge amount of troops. The second issue is there is a thought that China might like to collude with Pakistan should we get into a war with them. There is uh, nothing to support it, but then there is also always a threat. This is a time when China can carry out operations from Tibet into India. So whatever forces we have put against China gets fixed. We have still not disengaged from China, which we had got into this engagement for last 3 years. We are still in a process of asking him to disengage. Our troops are still there, fixed there. They may not be eyeball to eyeball, but they have not yet been moved out of the theater, whether it is Doklam or whether it is Ladakh. And I believe there are some troops which are fixed even in the central sector, which means that the troops which are needed to carry out operations in depth, which generally comes from these areas, to augment the troops which are opposite Pakistan, which we call as dual task formation, will not be available. They can be available only when there is a clear cut indication that China can't do anything. And that can happen only during the winters when no kind of operations can happen across the Himalayas, when the passes close and the Chinese possibly cannot carry out large scale operations. So, therefore, what we did in May is what we could do in the month of May. And actually, if you ask me, I would have, if somebody asked me for advice, I would have said, let us hold this military action for much later, possibly after the monsoons. And the second thing which we must understand is how are we sure that these operations will be over in, let's say, 2 weeks or 3 weeks? We are no longer fighting Pakistan of 1971. Today's Pakistan is a nuclear power. It has got a large amount of equipment which is quite modern, and the army, if not superior to us, it is not even, I will not call it inferior to us also. It's a parity kind of a situation in most of the areas. Of course, we are superior in terms of air force, we are superior in terms of navy, and we are superior in terms of our economy, which can possibly last for a longer period of time. But what happens when he gets support from, let's say, Muslim countries? If he gets money, if he gets equipment, like Turkey was giving equipment even now, Iran could step in from the west, you never know. It can give equipment at that time. So there is no end to these kind of speculations, and May, June is not the time to go for a long war. And therefore a pause had to be achieved, and I think we achieved the pause at a very right time. We have given him a nice thudded slap on his face, and in the coming days, when more and more things get unraveled to the Western media, they will realize what is the scope of this slap which Pakistan has taken. And as has been brought out by General Shankar and his many discussions, we have called out his nuclear bogey. These are very big achievements, and I guess that is all that we could do in this period of time. Now, what is likely to happen? So we have these delegations which are going around to various parts of the world to put across our point of view. We are going to strangle him with water war. It will be a slow strangle, which means water will be released when he doesn't want, and held back when he wants it. He is going to bear the brunt of floods during the monsoons because now he doesn't have the reason to ask us to hold back the water. We'll release it as and when water comes into these reservoirs. There will be a deluge in Pakistan. So in the next 4 5 months, I see them suffering in terms of economy. They may not have the kind of kharif crop which they normally do. So their agrarian income, which is their main income, the main source of economy, is going to take a huge hit in this coming year. They will not be able to sustain themselves economically if they don't get water the way they were getting till last year. So that is something with us. We will also try and create a large amount of barriers on trade by using our foreign friends, wherein things that he needs to keep himself abreast are not made available to him, and things which he wants to export to generate income are not exported. So it is a two-way traffic which we will try and do, and I'm sure we are got people in the right places to ensure that he's strangled as far as economy is concerned. So this is something which is going to happen in the next 3 to 4 months as far as Pakistan is concerned, and we will ensure that whatever kind of I will say psychological support we need to give to the Baloch or to the TTP, we will possibly in some manner help them achieve their end results. So there is going to be pressure on him both in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as well as in Sindh as well as in Baluchistan. So the Punjabi Musalman is going to face the brunt of India in the next 3 to 4 months, and it is going to be a very protracted, well thought of campaign, which I'm sure all the ministries are working in whichever way they were tasked to. While all this is happening, a huge amount of money has been released to the armed forces to carry out their emergency procurements. So we will try and speeden up some of our gaps in our equipment. I hope that in the next 5 to 6 months we are able to arrive at a disengagement plan with the Chinese, so that come winter we are able to disengage at least the additional troops which we have inducted in Ladakh and in Doklam, which will release some kind of force levels for us to carry our operations deep into Pakistan if the need so arise. And actually speaking, I don't visualize, I believe in slow torture. So I believe we are going to keep him on a low burner throughout this year and try and achieve our end state without having to, do anything. That should be our aim. We should lock him up, strangle him, make him die his own death, force him to mobilize, come out, spend money which he doesn't have, spend resources which he doesn't have, and in the bargain, try and create so much of distrust and discomfort inside Pakistan that Pakistan will fall on its own. That should be our effort. That notwithstanding, should there be a need, I don't rule out a degree of military intervention. It could be up north, maybe to start with the northern areas. It could be down south, to start with the Sindh, or it could be in his heartland to try and hurt him where it hurts most. Uh, we have achieved a huge amount of success as far as achieving air superiority in 4 days. If we carry out a similar kind of operations for, let's say, 10 to 12 days, I can assure you, like General Shankar put out last time, he may be able to put his aircrafts in the air, but the aircrafts won't be able to land. There will be no place for them to land. Somebody was mentioning yesterday in one of the Pakistani discussion that they have got these motorways where they can land. But unfortunately, these motorways can recover the aircraft, but they can't take off from there. So they can recover the aircraft, but they'll become sitting ducks on the motorways, and we'll take them out on the motorways also. So I'm sure we are looking at a very a protracted degree of counter-air operations with our missiles and standoff weapons. and we'll put Pakistan on its knees before we launch any kind of ground operations. I'm very sure. We have not used the power of our navy at all in this current 4 days, and navy we are far, far, far superior. The day we start putting our navy out, now with two aircraft carriers, two carrier battle groups, we can extend our dominance from Karachi to Gwadar and control his entire coastline. We can ensure that he's blocked thoroughly, and the only oil he'll get is the oil that he smuggles across the Iranian border, and that also I'm sure in that time Balochis will take care of that. They'll ensure that that oil also doesn't reach him. So he is going in asking. There's a lot of things that are due to Pakistan. Things are not over. India as such, and if you look at the Prime Minister when he addressed the nation, if you looked at his tone, if you looked at his tenor, he has not finished with it. He's still got many things to do, and I'm sure this time he's not going to stand back. I am very, very certain that this time there's much more to do. Now, Op Sindoor is still on. And one more facet which I would like to flag here, nothing stops us from hitting Bahawalpur once again, because Masood Azhar is still there. And I believe he's vowed that he is going to take revenge of his family members. So these kind of snakes you can't control. He'll try and do something funny in India and give us an opportunity to hit him again in Bahawalpur. Muridke can be hit again because that Hafiz Saeed character is still there. He is also a person who they can't control. So he'll also possibly want to do something funny, and he'll ask for something in bargain. So these kind of hits are still open to us because we have made it very clear the next time there is a terror incident in India, India is free to take any action it needs to free. So you will find these kind of regular thrashing of Pakistan happening over a period of next year or so, and the pressure is going to be such that he is either forced to come and negotiate in the manner that we want to negotiate, which means give up terror, give up POJK, become a proper political democracy, and give up any expansion and make the army subservient to its civilian government and make it a proper democratic republic which works in the manner that a responsible nation is supposed to. I think I will stop here, sir, and we can take questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I thought you covered a lot of ground, and those of everyone who's listening, off late for the past 1 week after of the kinetic part of Op Sindoor is finished, there's a general thing, people started losing track of what's happening. That is why today, what General Harimohan has given to us over the overview, right from 22nd April to now, it puts a lot of things back into focus. What did we achieve? What did we not achieve? We need to be honest with what we have achieved and not achieved. And you see the balances in what we have achieved. That's very clear. That's the first thing. The second thing is there's some very great positives which we have come out. I mean, I'm reiterating it because in this huge smoke screen of info op which Pakistan is doing, you're diverted to defending whether we lost 5 Rafales or not. They're irrelevant. To me, they're irrelevant. What have we achieved? All his nuclear bluff and red lines we have broken. We have put in our red lines. This has never happened before. We have our red lines now. That's the first thing. Second thing, this is now a operation which is without an end. That's what a DJMO has also said. This is a operation without an expiry date, which is important. So something is on. If Pakistan does something, we are at liberty to do anything else. So don't get panicked. One. Three. Never in my life have I seen, you know, a hit so deep into Pakistan, where Noor Khan Air Base and Sargoda and all these have been hit with such precision. We have those aces which we have done. Today, there's a lot of talk in world media and Chinese media, EAO, for many things. But people know the truth. Who knows the truth more than Pakistanis? Just think of Pakistanis. They have lost their airfields. They have lost their AVACs. They have lost their, complete AD system. The complete AD system is still down. You know how to jam them. You hit them, and they know if they do anything, they can get hit at our will. See the panic which is there inside. And if you see what's happening in Baluchistan, it's on the boil again. That Jafar Express thing, I would request everyone to put it. In fact, I was tempted to get that video of 24 minutes and put it on Ghana Short. But YouTube will get after me and ban me. Okay. So that's why I've not put it, because I'm already on YouTube Watch. So if you see that and see what's happening in Baluchistan, they have a major problem there. If you see what's happening in the Indus Water Treaty business, they have a major problem there. They're panicking. Okay, they're just two actions. The rest will fall in place. ऐसा है ना कि सुहाग राग के बाद तो सब कुछ अच्छा होता है. 4 दिन के बाद पता चलता है कि भैया हुआ क्या. The true story will come out. After little time. So that's the state in Pakistan. A major thing which what General Harimohan said, I want to reiterate, and that is, you're not got stuck like you got stuck in Ukraine. In 4-5 days, you achieved what you had to achieve, conveyed a message, and you come out. It doesn't affect your economy. In this entire process, you still see your economy going ahead. Everyone says this quarter your economy GDP will go up by 6.8%. It doesn't matter if it goes to 6.8, 6.7, 6.5. It's more than everyone else in the world. You're not stopped there. Your stock markets are up. There's a new realization in India on Atmanirbharta. Confidence in Atmanirbharta. Now let me put this across to all of you. Just before I got onto this, podcast, I saw in Twitter a promo of what? The DGAD getting interviewed by ANI of Smita Prakash. Very good. Today, because our AD has succeeded. Let me put this to you guys, all of you who are watching. On 12th of February, I put out the DGAD's interview with Kasa. With the Klaus, with General Dushyant Singh. The same DGAD, today he is a hero. 1 month back or 2 months back, when I put out his leader, he was a zero. None of us saw it. I'm going to put it back again. I'll put that same interview back so that you understand what he was speaking then, what is in our plans, and what we have now and what we have achieved. And of course, his full video will come out 2 days, or I don't know when it's going to come out. You can see it. So we have tremendous strength. That strength is coming out. Self-belief is coming out. Okay, so don't worry. You think Pakistan is going to get away? It's got a victory. You'll see it ending up at a huge loss. It's already lost. The loss will now get plastered all over. It's a matter of slow poisoning. You injected the poison. It will take time, right? It is irreversible. It is irreversible. Let me tell you this. That's the national resolve. And we need all of us to be with our nation, with each other, hold our hands, and then sort these guys out. Okay? There will be big talk from Pakistan. There will be big talk from China also. But let me focus a little on China. Just think about China. And I'll talk of it tomorrow morning on what China is having some severe problems with PLA. I'll talk about it. Notwithstanding what General Harimohan said, he's sitting there and he could have come over and all that. I have different views. He will not come anywhere. Okay? He's not going to cross the LAC in a hurry. And that too for Pakistan. His entire game with Pakistan is completely different. right? But that's a story for a different time. But think of China. Its AD equipment has failed. Okay, many of its aircraft have failed and they've been hit. Their guns have failed. This is something which has come out, which Shiv Arur has put out a video where he said the SH-15, the self-propelled howitzer, there are cases where it has broken down, and there are times when their barrels have burst or cracked. None of that has come from our side. We've intercepted their missiles. Our AD has performed. So there are huge military takeaways. There are huge issues which China would be thinking of. Remember, China has just got 4.5 bases on top, and those bases at any given point of time. I mean, this is something which I don't know whether you many people understand this or not. Let me elucidate this. General Harimohan said, "Look, this is the time when the passes open in Ladakh, right? And this is the off season in Ladakh. This is the off season in Ladakh. The passes open. After all, Snow Leopard, or that Kailash operation and Galwan
Happened in
happened in
May.
April, May. This is the time when it happened. So it can happen again. But there's one issue which no one has touched on. I'll touch. This is also the time when the Chinese Air Force will not be functional. And I'll explain to you why. In the Tibet plateau, when the Tibet plateau heats up, okay, the surface turbulence is very high. Aircraft can't take off or land. He'll agree with me. I have the IL-76 can't land with full load in Leh in summer, and it barely takes off on certain days after 9 o'clock in the morning. After 9 o'clock in the morning, it barely takes off an empty aircraft. Only an empty aircraft can take out. He doesn't take a pin extra. That means during the whole day, there are no air operations. And you think of a fighter which has to carry its full load, full, for endurance and all that, and where it can't take off. It can't take off from any of these, what shall I say, aircraft in Tibet. I mean, runways in Tibet, even if they're extended, all that. Extended runways, if you do a couple of strikes on those runways, the way we did in Nurkan and all that, thank you. PLAF will just sit down. Please understand our strength. And that is what we should take away and go. Right? So, think of the state of, China, where it is. 1 month more. I'm giving you 1 month more. It will be rainy season in Sikkim. Anything in the east is closed for China. Then the only option left is LAC. I mean, Eastern Ladakh. And at a place where fly. You see, don't go by the conditions which happened in 2021 and all that. Those days have changed. So there are a lot of positives in this whole story. You control the situation. Your economy is going up. You have him on the run. Oh, ठीक है साला कुछ बकवास करता रहेगा. Some bloody New York Times will come out with some shit. It doesn't matter. It's sausage. Or TikTok, all that bloody nonsense will happen. Ashliyat dekho. Okay, this is what I just thought I'll put across. Now sorry, Hari, I'm taking a lot of time on this because I thought these are important issues.
Yes,
Right?
I'd like to add.
Add.
It's not just his aircrafts, even his drones have failed miserably. There are a large number of Chinese drones also which Paki used, the Iyer version of drones. And they have also been taken out by her L-70 and our Zeus. So he is worried that even his drones, which he considers to be a force multiplier, possibly they'll also not work.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I'll take on a few questions. A lot of people have asked this question. Use Shaheen missile against India. which is nuclear capable. Wasn't it a huge escalation since we cannot know if ballistic missile is carrying nuclear warhead or not? I agree with this thought process, but I don't think personally his Shaheen missile was used. Why I'll tell you. Look, I've been in this business for too long, right? I first started learning about missiles when I was a major, before I went for staff college, because I was part of the DRDL with Dr. Abdul Kalam. I've learned the story for too long. The Shaheen missile has a range of 700 kilometers. Okay, it has a full ballistic trajectory, and for reaching 700 kilometers, it has to go out into the out of the atmosphere and come do a re-entry. That's the first thing. Secondly, it's an old generation missile, and for hitting Sirsa, you don't need a Shaheen. You don't need it. It's just about 150 kilometers, unless he was trying to hit Delhi. And if he was trying to hit Delhi, he was hitting it at max range. If he has to hit at max range, it couldn't have been intercepted over Sirsa. Understand this? It's at altitude. Okay, you could have intercepted it over Sirsa. If you intercepted it over Sirsa, Sirsa was the target. If Sirsa was the target, you see any of these missiles, you can intercept it either in the launch phase or in the terminal phase. In the apex phase, it's very difficult to catch it. You can't catch it. Okay, right? Because the rate of turn is so high that you can't catch it. No one can track it at that height, right? And especially if it's gone into space, out of question. So something is you hit the missile. It got a missile at Sirsa. You got it. You hit it. Is it nuclear war capable? It's not. If it was, there would have been a nuclear burst. So it's not. If it was only coming up to Sirsa, right? And at the altitude suggested it's Sirsa. Sirsa means I wouldn't have used Shaheen. I would have used the smaller Fatah Futa and all that nonsense. So this thing I think has come out because of the video which the army put out of showing the launch of a Shaheen. I think that's about all. More than that, I don't think there is anything more to this.
Just wanted to add, the Fateh is also nuclear capable. It is also the Fateh 2 is a nuclear capable missile. They are those variants of M9 and M11 missiles.
Yeah, and it's not only Fateh, even Nasser is nuclear capable.
Nasser is there, Abdali is there.
Abdali is there. Yeah, so in fact, if you see the Pakistani thing, their entire lot of missiles are nuclear capable. I mean, that's their philosophy. I spoke about this thing 3 days back. Nuclear antics of a nuclear beggar. He wants to do. He's one of the few guys who's propagated a thing of tactical nuclear weapons, right? And first use. So, but despite that, he's not had the guts to use it. Okay, one more problem which Pakistan has: if he uses a nuclear weapon close to the border, at this point of time, the fallout will all go to Pakistan.
Go to him.
That's the wind pattern. So there are more to it than this thing. Some idiots in all kinds of channels will talk all kinds of things. See, we are echoing. You know why we are echoing? We are gunners. हमारे जहन में है ये सोचना. ये कमांडेंट स्कूल ऑफ आर्टिलरी रह चुका है. ठीक है? He is really taught all these things to the entire artillery. So we know what we are talking. So don't worry about it. Don't unnecessarily. We shouldn't give that fellow too much of bow also. Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot for your contribution. Then when we hear Pakistan, immediately Islam comes to our mind, but quite a significant aspect of Pak is communism, though not dominant, but far more dangerous than jihadis. Mullah Munir is much better. Your views, Hari?
There were some questions asked to Pakistanis, and I was following it on the social media. And whenever they were asked to choose between Islam or anything else, they always chose Islam. So the communists in Pakistan will also choose Islam above communism. So I always believe Pakistan is bound by 3 things: Allah, army, and America. So as of now, not going to ditch Allah at all. I personally feel Islam is something which binds. Even I must say this, when it comes to it, even Balochis look at Islam. The Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the Talibanis are also very radical Islamists. So
Yeah, they
that
are
is what is
extreme.
actually, they are the extreme. They are
Yeah,
the people who actually have been pushing their agenda. So it's may not be uh, fair to comment on this, but I guess in my mind, I still feel a
but
Pakistani relates himself more with Islam than
than
anything
anyone
else.
else. Yeah, but having said that, I go with him to a certain extent because you see, Bhutto was an Islamist. He was a Khattar communist also. He didn't call
So
himself a communist, but he's a socialist of the highest order. And to a large extent, if you look at it deeper, there is a blend of socialism and Islamism at the root level. With Islamism, you know, what shall I say, outshining communism or socialist way of life at
So
one
I
level.
will say
At
this.
one level.
I will say they are not atheists. They will be
No,
following
no.
socialism and communism,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
they
I'm
feel
not saying
like
communism. Socialism, socialism. I'm talking of communist principles, not the
not the
religious
communism.
part of it, not the religious part of it. But that is at one level. But if you look at the elites, you look at Pakistan army, they are not socialists. They are not communists. They are
They are
out and out
elitist.
bloody businessmen. ठीक है बनिए हैं ठीक है वो चूज लेगा
So,
if you go and give your hand to a Pakistani general and take it out, you should see if your fingers are there or not. The Chinese
so
are suddenly, yeah,
I must narrate an incident. When I was in the UN, sir, in 2001 two, my entire staff was Pakistani. My head clerk was a Pakistani Subedar. My clerk was a Pakistani Havaldar. And I used to have something called a communicator who was a Pakistani operator, signalman. It was not because I was an Indian, because that chair had, the
okay,
staffing was done by Pakistan. We did not send soldiers to Congo at that time. And over a period of 1 year, we had blended very well. And the troops are, let me tell you, they are very good. And this is one thing which I realized: very good and very faithful, and much more faithful than I can say the troops that we have. Very, very faithful. Their officers are idiots of the highest order. They abuse their troops like dirt. And the Subedar came to me, and it was a very open this thing. He says, "साहब आपके साथ 1 साल नौकरी किया है, आपने मुझे एक बार भी गाली नहीं दिया। वो जो मेरा उधर बैठे हैं 3 आदमी, उनसे उनका मेरा कोई लेना ना देना है, ना मैंने उनसे पर्ची लेनी है, लेकिन वो जब देखो माँ बहन की गाली सुना के चले जाते हैं। So the point I was trying to make out is they are a bound society, they are a God-fearing society, and they have the officer lot is elitist. They believe in only looking at money making. Their only job is to say kahan se maine where I should get my next tranche of money to further my this thing. Most of their officers are holding British passports in addition to their own passports. So they have an exit right also, but their troops don't have that.
yeah. I think that's a very important thing, and I want to reinforce it. When I got commissioned, I used to deal with people, officers, my own officers, who had dealt with Pakistanis, and the story those days was Indian officers and Pakistani troops will make the best army in the world.
Best army in the world.
World. Okay. So you have to understand this thing. This is, I'm telling you what I learned when I was a second lieutenant from my seniors who had just come out of war and who had dealt with Pakistani troops. Okay. Rastomaniac, technology and education has won throughout ages. There's no discussion on this. I think it
No
is right.
discussion.
And 100% online purpose. Thanks a lot for becoming a member. Uh, yeah, we spoke about this Shaheen missile, Akshar. So, your views on India's AVAX shortages?
If we are looking at a single front war, we are not short of AWACS. We got, I think, 3 of them, and they are good. there's some conversation which is going on that our AWACS are old. Please understand that the aircraft may be old, but the avionics and
Are
the
good.
electronics inside have been upgraded in regular times. So that's as state of the art as you find anywhere in the world. We are also in the process of upgrading our AWACS out of the IL-76 platform that they are currently flying. There is a project which is on. I'll leave it at that. But
Yeah, leave it at that.
trust to me, the three AWACS that we have. But yes, if tomorrow we have two fronts to look at, we may be a little pulled out as far as AWACS. But you must also understand, in the northern front, our AWACS are not so useful because they have to fly very high to get hold of the Chinese aircraft which are taking off much in depth. Because, like General Shankar said, if they come to the plateau, they can't do anything. So most of the Chinese aircraft are taking off from the hinterland, and it becomes difficult to pick them. But that having said, maybe that's why we have taken up a case, and I believe new tranche is under procurement. It will come in due course.
Yeah. Anti SWLA, thanks a lot for becoming a member. Garvesh, tell us a joke you feel using a weapon forged by you in battlefield and winning the war.
Absolutely,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. The first time I saw
Look, let
an ATAX, first time I saw an ATAX firing, and I was with General Shankar. We were the people who incubated attacks. It was so thrilling because it was our baby which started firing.
yeah,
So our own equipment is absolutely the topmost.
yeah. There's a question which someone has asked, and I would like to reiterate. My the Gunner shot intro video is of the BrahMos which we actually fired. He's laughing. He was my DDG those days.
I was
He
sitting in
used to
the MO
come.
rooms
Yeah,
when
he
you
was
were in
sitting in the MO
Andamans.
Andaman. See that? We are all a tight knit guys. Rajiv Narayanan was also there those days with him, and so I got this clip, and I never lost that clip. Someday I'll show you of Pinaka and my clips of attacks and all that. The attacks and all are not so flashy, but this is very good. And so for me, it's a personal thing that look, I sweated a lot for BrahMos. Someday, if I tell you the story of what I did for BrahMos, yeah, let that story go with me. Someday, I'll tell. But it's a lot of pride, and he's laughing because he was with me throughout. Okay, and I credit him for all the guns which we have got today, and I credit him for the fact that all the guns which we got today are tremendous guns. We A lot of people say we take a lot of trials, AO and all that, and our processes are slow. Let me tell you, our processes are very thorough, and that is why all the guns which we got inducted are now performing on the battlefield. Whereas all those fancy looking, highly mobile and SH-17 and mounted gun systems of China, which Pakistan has brought. The latest thing is they're failing. They failed in the battlefield, and they have had to go back to their older guns. Our modern systems are modern and hitting where it counts. Yeah. Salute to good generals for sharing your wisdom, sir. Any threats to IWT by China using Brahmaputra River as bargaining chip? I can take it on if
Yes, sir.
you are not
No,
right.
no, no,
Look, let me tell
I'll
you.
add.
Uh, I mean, you
You
can
take
say
it on.
if you want to talk. No,
So
there is no
I just wanted to say Brahmaputra comes with 35% of water into India. Rest of the
no 15%,
65% is
15%, 15%. It's only
the rest
15%.
is all in India, so it
Rest are
doesn't make
all
a
in
difference.
India. They don't make a difference. It doesn't make a
We
difference
all
at
we have to
all.
do is stop Teesta flowing into Bangladesh. We'll have enough water.
Okay, what is the danger that once liberated Baluchistan morphs into another Bangladesh later, and how do we ensure that they don't become radicalized? Can we take lessons from USSR who successfully de-radicalized Central Asian Republic nations? Yeah, your
So
view.
I have a different take on it, having studied Balochistan very closely. You see, Bangladesh, when I will go back to partition time, and I call this, in fact, I'm qualifying this in social media. I qualify two kinds of Muslims who were Indian Muslims earlier. One breed is called the Bengali Muslims, the other breed is called the Punjabi Muslims. They are third rate people, both of them. The Bengali Muslims went to Bangladesh or East Pakistan, and the Punjabi Muslims went to West Pakistan. Balochis, the Pashtuns, people living in northern areas, the Gilgit Baltistan people, they are not radical people. They are they are more Sufi kind of Islam followers. I don't see them becoming radicalized. If the Balochis are seen today the way you see it, it is because they are fighting an insurgency against Pakistan. They have been exploited by Pakistan. And they are really, and even the Sindhis, I believe the last week there is some new tremors which have started even in Sindh. So these people are comparatively very moderate, and they are not what they call, I will use that word kaiya, that's the word they use in Hindi. People you can't trust are the people from Bangladesh and the Bengali Muslims and the Punjabi Muslims. Punjabi is the worst one, Bengali is the next worst one. The kind of atrocities these people have done during the partition period, everything happened in these two states only. It's the Punjab and the East Bengal. West Punjab and East Bengal were the only two places where mayhem happened. Even inside Bangladesh, if you go towards Chittagong and towards those tracts which are closer towards our northeast, the people living there are not so radical as the people who come from central Bangladesh, who are possibly those people with that kind of ideas. I don't see Balochistan going that way.
Yeah, incidentally, the head of Baluchistan, American Congress, is a Hindu, Dr. Tarachand.
Hindu.
Okay, he's a Hindu. They're not that Qatar thing. Okay, General Shankar, with due respects, let your guest speaker complete the point he is making and refrain from butting in constantly. देखो भाई यहाँ कोई गेस्ट नहीं है. There's no guest here. ठीक है. There's no guest out here. देखो, you see how he's laughing. There's no guest and there's no guest and host in this show. We all talk. We are having a conversation. Okay, we know each other too well to. I know exactly what he's going to speak. He also knows exactly what I'm going to speak. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Akash, given the enemy's utterances 4 days before Pahalgam incident, disqualifies him to be a military man, let alone an officer. Does the enemy realize his impairment in their leadership?
Sir, everything that he spoke on that day, 4 days before Pahalgam, was weighed in. It was not off the cuff remark. Everything had a meaning and a target audience. You must realize where Asim Munir was in that period which I was mentioning. If I was to go back a couple of months, he was absolutely knocked out because there was so much of support coming for Imran Khan. And today it's vanished. He's managed to, actually splinter PTI. PTI is vanished from the scene. Today, Pakistan does not have a political discourse because PML they're not there. They don't have any support. PPP is a splintered party and PTI has been destroyed by this gentleman. So we are in for a very, very, very long tenure of military rule by proxy, by having somebody like a Shahbaz Sharif will keep calling him Qawmi Fakar. But that having said, every word this guy spoke that day had a meaning. And every word, it is not that it has already gone over. There are certain things which are still in the making. So for those of us who study Pakistan, we need to listen to that speech again and again, because there are certain things which are still moving around, especially with terms of how he wants to create the next generation of Pakistanis. What kind of radical Pakistanis he wants to make. These are not utterances from somewhere out of the blue. And thirdly, I believe this guy is part of the Zia breed of Fauji's who came into the system in the 70s and 80s.
Radicalized, completely radicalized.
People coming from madrasas, and he's from that lot of people. He is not a normal human being. He is a radical, And unfortunately, all the core commanders today are of the same order. In fact, I was listening to somebody other day. They said if you remove Asim Munir, you're going to get another one because the next in line is going to be as bad or as good as him. They have to identify somebody who's possibly a colonel today, promote him to a general, and give him the reign of the chief. Then only the army
Yeah.
can change. That's the problem there.
You see, one more thing I want to add, that speech of 8 minutes was an edited speech. It is not a full speech.
What we saw,
They
what we saw,
edited what was
what we
released
saw,
to public.
what was alleged.
Yeah, edited 8 minutes, right? And it carried each bit which he spoke carried a lot of depth and meaning. So we need to be very careful with this fellow, and that is why I keep saying, like what General Harimohan said in the beginning, somewhere we have to say, we have to break Pakistan, and that is where our whole story is. Yeah. Now I'll go to Venki Penemaneni. He says, technically, psychologically, China is a real loser and sufferer from Op Sindur. Having studied India's tactical genius, what if it tried the same against us? Your thoughts?
There is a thought process which is going around in the world that what happened in Pahalgam was China initiated. Why do I say so? For the last 8 months, China has been, trying to ask us to disengage from Ladakh, and we are stuck on the issue that we will disengage only when he disengages. So there is a case where he's stuck in stalemate situation. He does not want to leave with his face down. So he wants to leave on his own count. And there is a thought process which said that Pahalgam through uh, Asim Munir was initiated by China. That having said, China is a loser because China tried to do a Ukraine in Pakistan. What was happening in Pakistan was 80%, 81% of his weapons, which was Chinese origin, were being put on test. At least the Air Force weapons and the electronic weapons have been shown to be wanting. They may look like the state of the art. So somebody said, they got the J-35 is coming. I said, I'm not worried about it. It may look like an F-35, but andar mal to China ka hai. It is something like that
That's the
iPhone, the
question.
phones which they bring out.
That's
It may
another
look
question
like an
someone
iPhone.
also asked.
It may look like an iPhone, but it will not perform like an iPhone. So let's not get worried about it. His HQ9 was a offtake of the S300 which the Russians made a decade ago. Possibly he said that it is better than the Russian S300. But we saw the S300 failed. Sorry, the HQ9 failed. Whereas the S300 has not failed in Syria. It has achieved a large amount of success. So we must take China's situation. Yes, he's taken a beating because his entire equipment, and I think I mentioned it last time, today he must be really worried because his air defense, all his so-called, survivability, because as it is, he's going to operate in an area where his air force is not going to be effective. And if his air defense is also gone, then I don't see China surviving in a long day drawn conflict with India. Please understand that 1962 we did not have the air force that we have today, and we did not have the kind of army that we have today. We are possibly today in parity with China on our northern borders, and we will give him a bloody nose in certain selected sectors that we have already identified for us, and he's also aware of it. So this is a period of a lot of introspection for him because the kind of equipment that he provided to, including the PL-15E, he has provided the export version, so-called export version, but the export version does not go beyond 80 miles. And supposedly, if he has engaged a target at 120, 130 miles, that means he's used actual PL which he uses with his own air force. The number of PL missiles we have recovered unexploded inside India, it shows how much effectiveness this missile will be. And I don't think the PL has hit any Indian aircraft also. So that having said, I believe he's in big trouble. He may not be able to sell equipment to the world after this. Nobody is going to buy it. His
Nobody.
stocks and shares of his defense industry is going down. He is in big trouble.
Let me qualify this. Today I was speaking to someone who's far senior to me, or both of us. I'm senior to him, someone as. So I asked him, I said, sir, just think. You're the head of a country in Africa. Let's say Rwanda or Angola or whatever, whichever country in Africa, which is vying to buy Chinese weapons, or on the verge of buying Chinese weapons, AD systems, guns, AO, will you buy? Will you buy? Will you still go and buy? The answer I got was, this the first thing is I'll call the Indian ambassador and tell him, should I buy? This is the answer which this senior of mine gave me. He said, as a leader of any nation, I will call the Indian ambassador and ask him how good this weapon function or not, and find out what the efficacy was against Pakistan, and then I will take a call. But my first reaction will be, I'll not buy. So there are implications of this thing. That's why I picked this question from Venki, because he asks all difficult questions all the while, and it's interesting to speak about difficult questions to make the whole story interesting. Okay, yeah, okay. Now let me see. Is there any other question? Okay. Uh, Thanks a lot, Krishna, for gifting this Gunnershot membership to others. Why are we always reactive and not proactive?
No, sir.
Have
I
you been?
believe we are very proactive.
Mm,
Nobody hits 9 locations in the enemy territory from a standout distance with precision. We are a proactive army, and possibly there are certain areas we, as a good democracy, good responsible nation, we do have certain things in place, but we are a proactive armed force.
yeah, we are a very proactive armed forces now. Let me tell you, uh, or I'm very glad in one way that our army, navy, and air force have become more proactive in the past few years. I'm also very unhappy and sad that we were not so proactive when I was in service. Okay, that's my loss, and I'll carry it to my grave, right? And that is for different reasons. It's not that is this thing; it's for different reasons. Last and this thing, Yogesh Badresa, it says, please click the like button, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and share it with your family and friends. We're going to come back. I'm going to keep coming back because it's important for all of us to understand what has happened and what is happening and what will happen. And like today, we had three elements of it to put things in perspective. Because many times when we are discussing the present, we forget the past. And I'm grateful that General Harimohan put everything in perspective. Thanks a lot, General Harimohan.
Thank you,
I
sir.
think we've had a great time. We look forward to your talk the next time. Till then, good
Thank you,
evening
sir.
and
Thank you
Jai
very
Hind to
much.
you.
Jai Hind,
And
sir.
Jai Hind to everyone who's here. Thank you. Hold on after this.